They say the most powerful magic isn't found in a dusty tome or a hidden cave. It's found in the corners of our daily lives, the way we set our intentions and build a life that feels as sacred as it does successful. Welcome to the Coven's Corner. We're here to bring you grounded, accessible magic every Witchy Wednesday, and there's a seat at our table for you. So grab a cup of tea, and let's look at the world a little differently. Our circle is open. Let's begin. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Coven's Corner. Our circle is open. We are so happy to have you here at our altar with us.
We really are. It's wonderful to sit down with you guys again.
So before we jump into today's topic, let's do our quick vibe check. So, Dawn, what's on your altar this week?
On my altar this week, I've got my focus on still trying to unpack my green room and get everything set up. On my mind, though, I've actually been thinking a lot about nostalgia and the media that we grew up with. My growing up was a little bit sooner before than yours. So just kind of thinking about like the old movies and things that we used to watch. And so that's kind of where I've been this week. What about you?
Yeah, I'm right there with you on the nostalgia wave. I literally just finished up a marathon of Buffy the Vampire Slayer again, so gotta love me some Buffy. But honestly, on my mind this week has just been really navigating the fast pace of everything between, packed work schedule. As I, mentioned last week, right. We're in the middle of orientation right now for our new students. So helping, get them ready for life on campus, transitioning from high school to college life. And, just making sure my son has everything he needs going into summer and making sure that he's taken care of. Definitely been relying heavily on my my morning beverage rituals,
right? And
yep,
stirring in the right
stirring
direction.
in the right direction. Just trying to find my center before the world wakes up.
So those quiet mornings really are essential, especially when life gets busy. You need that time to focus. You need that time to ground, especially with a little one at home. Making sure that he's safe and everything is okay with him. So I completely understand taking those few quiet moments in the morning when you can, and making use of them.
Absolutely. They do keep me grounded. And speaking of busy, fast-paced worlds, that leads us right into our theme today. So today we're pointing our wands at Hollywood, TikTok, and pop culture. So from green-skinned hags to 15-second viral videos, the media is obsessed with witches right now. But where does the entertainment end and the real practice begin? So today we're separating the cinematic special effects from the actual everyday magic. All right, so let's start with a fun segment we're going to be calling Tropes versus Truths. So Hollywood loves a good archetype, but movie screens usually give us a pretty distorted reflection of what a real practitioner looks like.
Isn't that the truth? So think about the classic wicked witch trope, covered in green makeup, flying on a broom, and causing malevolent chaos. Those might be my favorite, though. In reality, the overwhelming majority of witches focus on healing and self-empowerment and positive transformations in their own life, in their own world.
Exactly. And then there's the wise crone stereotype, which makes it seem like witchcraft is only for older, mysterious women living alone in the woods. But if you look at the actual community, the craft is practiced by people of all ages, backgrounds, and genders.
Right. And I would like to be that old woman out in the woods.
Wouldn't we all?
Yeah, very much so. So another big one is the young, innocent prodigy who suddenly inherits explosive cinematic power overnight. Like she bumps her head and she wakes up the next day and she has all of these amazing powers that she didn't know that she had. So, yeah, it makes for a good movie plot, but it completely oversimplifies the actual reality, which is a complex, lifelong journey of study, learning, and personal growth. I mean, we talked last episode about it's not something that you can flick a switch and then all of a sudden your spell comes true, or you hit the lottery, or whatever it is. It takes work, it takes focus, and it takes study.
Yeah, absolutely. And Hollywood does love a good aesthetic. So another one is the attire. So the dramatic black robes, the pointed hats, or that idea that you have to have an animal companion to practice the craft. Which it's fun. The folklore of that all is fun, but real witchcraft happens every day in casual wear. And choosing a pet just for a personal companion is not a universal requirement.
Right.
So you want to make sure that your vibe works for you, not following along with some Hollywood stereotype just for the sake of jumping in on a trend.
And please make sure if you have a pet that you have a pet for the right reasons, not just because you think you're going to start looking into witchcraft and you have to have one. You need to make sure that pet, that familiar, if you wish to call it that, is part of your family and that you're taking care of it. And going back to the pointed hat, and I have pointed hats, I have to say. So I wear them at Halloween. That's the only time I really wear my pointed hat and my black cloak and all of that. Because so that attire does not equate to witchcraft. You can practice witchcraft in your big bulky sweatshirt and leggings and keep your slippers on, and you're still a witch.
Absolutely. So, and it's just your witchcraft is going to be personal to you, and that's how we do things ourselves, and it's a very personal journey. What Hollywood doesn't get a lot of the times is that practicing witchcraft is such a personal thing. It's such a personal journey. It's all about you and your beliefs and what works for you, and that's not always going to match up with somebody else. So it's really just very personal, very sacred to each individual.
It is. And even with the trope, the good witch trope, so you see that on television everywhere. So it's okay. She's a good witch. Sometimes that kind of washes things out too much. And I think any of these stereotypes kind of gloss over the fact that, like we said, witches come in all shapes, sizes, colors. Anybody who wants to put in the work can do witchcraft. I fully believe that. Yep.
Very well said. Thank you, Dawn. All right, so this brings us into our next segment, which I'm going to call the illusion of the spark. So on screen, when a character casts a spell, there's immediate lightning bolts and floating objects and dramatic gusts of wind.
So it certainly sends up an unrealistic expectation for beginners. So if you're just starting out in this, I'm sorry, that's not going to happen. Okay, when you cast your spells, they're not going to be lightning bolts from your fingertips, and it's just, sorry, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, that comes later.
Yeah. So real magic doesn't rely on those type of special effects. It operates on shifts in energy, and once you've been doing this for a while, you'll feel those shifts happen, and it's really amazing. One of my favorite things is to actually feel that shift in energy. It's very exciting. You need to have mental focus. You need to have the proper intent, and quiet, steady, learning, patience. Again, like we say, it's not something that you're going to flick a light switch and everything is gonna be the way that you put your intent out there for, it takes work.
Absolutely. It's all about the timeline. You know, in a film, a spell has to work in 2 minutes flat to drive the plot. So in the real world, magic takes the path of least resistance and unfolds over weeks, months, cycles, even years sometimes.
Yeah.
So, Dawn, how do you handle expectations or keep your momentum going when a ritual doesn't show an immediate cinematic result?
So I'd be lying if I said I didn't get frustrated, because we all want to just have an intent, do a spell, and see a result as soon as possible. So as sometimes when it is especially meaningful or emotional, I tend to get frustrated if I don't see something happening right away. So you just have to trust the process. Pay attention to things that you might not be paying close attention to because you might miss something. Magic works in the background, shifting opportunities and perspectives long before you see anything developing, any type of physical change. So if you're looking for lightning bolts, you're going to miss the quiet opening door right next to you because you're looking for the lightning bolts when your answers and your next step in your journey might be right there next to you.
Absolutely. Very well said.
All right, so tell us about some of your favorite witchy movies and why do you love them?
Well, as harking back to our first episode, one of the movies that got me into the practicing witchcraft was the movie The Craft from the 1990s. I know I'm dating myself, but stay with me now. You know, and I keep coming back to that movie because they had a practicing Wiccan on set to be consulted. They really got it mostly right. I mean, like I said, the patriarchal deities that they are invoking are not necessarily what most witches will aspire to, but it was definitely more realistic than I think some other, like Sabrina the Teenage Witch or something like that. And I will say another witchy movie that is near and dear to my heart is Practical Magic, and I'm so excited they're coming out with number 2 this year. But I really enjoyed the emotions of that movie. I think the emotions behind their spell work was what felt real. You know, the sisterhood dynamic, that, you know, looking for love in all the wrong places, and then just wanting that community and wanting that acceptance was just it really hit home for me when it came out, you know, all those long years ago. And then, of course, you know, who can forget the Midnight Margarita scene? It's classic.
I can forget the Midnight Margarita scene because I got to be honest with you, and Kacey and I have talked about this before, we need to sit down and do a marathon because I haven't seen any of the 90s witchy movies. So, so moving on. So for me, and now Kacey said that she went back, I'm going back even further. So Suspiria is probably the first movie that I can remember watching that related to witchcraft. So yes, that is a Argento movie. In our first episode, we talked about movies and books and things like that kind of drew us in. And my answer then and now is Escape to Witch Mountain. So again, it's a set of twins that have magical powers, and then, you know, not to ruin the ending for you or anything if you haven't seen it yet, but they're actually aliens. So that was kind of a cool
plot twist.
Yeah. So the other one, the TV show that really kind of got me going was Bewitched. I wanted to be Tabitha so badly.
Who didn't?
Yeah, right. So I still practice wiggling my nose and seeing if it does anything. Another one was Bell Book and Candle. Have you seen Bell Book and Candle?
I have
You
not.
should see it. It's really, really good. So
We'll
those were
put it on the list.
okay. Those were 1970s ish. Coming out of that, and when of course seeing Suspiria, and then saying when I was old enough to watch The Wizard of Oz, it was a yearly event, and you got to stay up late, and you made popcorn, and everybody gathered around the TV, and that's my all-time favorite movie, and always will be. It was just so magical, and I know that sounds hokey, but it is what it is. So, in the 80s, Witches of Eastwick. With my other girl, Cher. And then the 90s for me, it was Hocus Pocus. And still to this day, it's Hocus Pocus. Chronicles of Narnia was another one that I thought was really good as well. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Yep.
And then the Harry Potters, I think I've seen one. I don't think I've read any of the books. So, 100 Lashes of the Wet Noodle for me. Excuse me.
So, and all of those movies portray witchcraft in different ways and in different modalities. So, all of it is also just very cinematic too. Like we were talking about, witchcraft isn't loud. Witchcraft isn't flashy. It's not the lightning bolts. It's not the floating objects. It's not, all the big bang stuff. It's quiet, it's personal, and it's subtle. And watching out for those signs, watching out for what feels natural to you is what we definitely promote.
Yep. So I think if we can reinforce anything, it's don't look for the big stuff. Because I think it takes a whole lot of little things to get you where you need to be, where you should be, where the universe wants you. It doesn't happen in a big bang, like you said. So pay attention to the little things. Stop and just focus for a minute and think about little things, little nuances that might have changed that let you know that things are working the way that they're supposed to in the right direction for you.
I know it's cliche, but the universe does work in mysterious ways. All right, so now moving on to our next section, we're going to do a bit of a deep dive. So there is actually a fascinating psychological phenomenon called enclothed cognition. So this is the study of how the specific clothing or items that we wear can actively alter our psychological state, our confidence, and mental performance.
And I think we've talked about this in prior episodes, but there's such a difference in thought processes about this, whether you need to have ritual garb on, whether you can do spell work in your pajamas and slippers. And the answer to that for me is you can do it in whatever you want. However, there is a psychological thing that happens, at least for me, when you put your garb on. So it makes sense when you apply it to the craft. So putting on a specific robe or ritual gear or wearing a silver ring or a certain necklace that you wear or a certain wrap or whatever it is that is your thing when you're getting ready to do your spell work that is personal to you, it really does change your headspace, in my opinion. And I know it works for me, and Kacey, I believe it works for you too.
Absolutely. So
is it necessary? No, it's not necessary. However,
it acts as a literal psychological trigger. So it signals your brain that you're stepping out of the mundane world and into a space of focus, power, and intent. So while we don't need an expensive aesthetic to practice, the things that we wear can be genuine, powerful tools for anchoring our mind.
Yes.
And they can also serve as talismans too, because when you're practicing in certain clothing, that clothing will absorb your energy, that clothing will absorb the power that you're working with. so that it becomes a tool for you, and it's a way that you can harness energy more easily and can really help you to get right into a focused mindset and go from there.
Right. And I'm a huge proponent of don't touch my stuff. If I have something set up on my altar, don't touch it. Because that's my energy that's there. I don't need it intermingled with somebody's energy that might not have the same intent that I have.
Mm-hmm.
So I tell that to my husband all the time. If it's on that table, don't touch it. It's true. So it bridges the gap between the mindset and magic, and I do think it changes your mindset and prepares your mind for the fact that now it's time to do spell work, to practice witchcraft.
100%. It really does. But it also raises an interesting question about symbols. So let's throw this out there for a hot take. Does wearing a pentagram necklace actually count as protection if you don't even know what it stands for? Or is it just jewelry at that point?
So I think the symbol itself carries its own messages. People will recognize a pentagram or a pentacle depending on what it is that you're wearing. But I think if you don't have the personal awareness yourself of what it symbolizes, it really loses something. Mm-hmm. I think you have to be willing to invest the time to learn about everything that you're doing. Mm-hmm. And I think the symbols as well, you need to understand what they represent. So it's not just a piece of jewelry. It's something that deserves to have some focus, some understanding.
Yes.
Because for me, if I'm wearing something and I don't understand why I'm wearing it, I shouldn't be wearing it.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. 100%
Yep.
Agreed. All right. So we're going to be moving into our next segment. So this, so that key that you were talking mm-hmm. about, it's exactly what's missing from a lot of modern trends. So we've seen a massive wave in social media platforms being used to teach witchcraft and the mystic arts lately. While it's amazing for accessibility, there is a big difference between navigating an algorithm and navigating a lifelong practice. Take it away, Dawn.
So in today's fast-paced world, it's tempting to look for a quick fix, like that 15-second easy money spell. And again, following the theme of what we've been talking about, it's not going to be instantaneous, right? So when the video says, we can do this spell for you, we can tell you how to do this spell, and you're going to get immediate, instant results. Okay. True witchcraft is a very deep commitment. It's a practice that requires study, patience, and I can't say the word patience enough times, and personal growth. It's about understanding the energy. It's understanding the symbolism. It's your intentions behind your rituals rather than taking shortcuts. I feel that if you are going to practice witchcraft, you need to understand the theory behind what you're doing, not just know how to light some candles and say a few words. You really do need to understand the theory behind it. So, studying the craft means learning from traditions. Now, there are so many different types of witchcraft out there. Mm-hmm. In order to do yourself justice, you need to do the research and find out where it is that you feel like you fit. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's none of them. Maybe it's just something that you're going to be developing on your own. But either way, it's going to take time, and it's going to take practice, and it's going to take focus. It involves developing your intuition. So again, like we were talking, don't look for the big explosion in the sky. Feel for the energy shifts and look for the little things that are happening around you. That's where the magic is going to be. Okay, so it can be quick spells, things like that can be kind of kind of fun, or maybe give you a little inspiration for something bigger, something more focused. They really do replace the work that needs to be done in order to be able to do appropriate spell work. And that takes dedication, it takes study, it takes a lot of self-discovery. Right? You may enter into this thinking that you want to be a witch, and the more you study and the more you practice and the more you look at yourself, you might find that it's really not something that's for you, and that's okay. But you're not going to know that if you don't do the work behind it.
That is so beautifully said. Thank you. You know, a 15-second clip can give you a recipe, but it can't give you a relationship with the craft.
Excellent, excellent. Nice way to put it. So studying the craft, again, means learning from tradition, from experience, from community. It involves developing intuition, etc., etc. So again, you need to dedicate yourself to your practice, to your self-discovery, because so much of what happens in the craft has to do with who you are and how you see yourself developing and how you're actually developing. So it's not something that you can just pick up and say, okay, I'm done, I did a spell. You need to honor the journey of the witches who came before you. I believe that wholeheartedly in my heart. They have forged a path for us, and we owe it to future generations to be able to give them the same thing that our ancestors gave us. So again, you need to recognize that real magic takes time, takes patience, takes intent, and you need to use care.
Very well said.
Thank you.
All right, so we're moving into our last segment. So going into our Consulting the Coven and our weekly spark. So we are going to consult our coven now, and we want to bring this conversation straight to our listeners. So for next week's segment, we want to know what specific pop culture movie, TV show, or book actually got you interested in the craft initially, and what is the biggest lie it told you about being a witch. So email us your answers at covenscornerpodcast@gmail.com.
We love to get email from listeners. It lets us know that you're connected. Feel free to ask questions. That's what we're here for. We're here to help guide you. And there are things that you can share with us that we're going to learn from. And I know we've said that before, but you never stop learning. When you're exploring witchcraft and you're living this life, there's always something around the corner that you didn't know before. Maybe the time wasn't right for you to know it at that particular time. So it's always learning. It's always growing. So please give us your feedback. We really love to hear it.
Absolutely.
Okay, and I'm actually really looking forward to some of the answers that we get to this question. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
All right, so before we close our circle, Kacey, let's hit our weekly spark. And pull a card for our readers.
All right,
our
let's
listeners.
do it.
Okay, so which deck are we going to pull from? Are you going to pull from?
Let's do my trusted oracle deck. It's the Dreaming in Color deck.
It's a beautiful deck.
It's really a wonderful. It's a wonderful deck to help embrace emotions. So these are, I like to call them my emotion cards. And they all are, it's abstract art based on whatever the emotion is. And they are all very, very beautiful. I've been practicing with this deck for many, many years. All right.
Catharsis. So those of you who are listening, if you had a particular question in your mind or information that you were hoping to glean from this, the card that I chose, and these cards are just so pretty, is Catharsis. So see how that fits into what your thought pattern was, what answers that you wanted. So for me, this is my catharsis. It really is, because, things at home get really hectic. Things at work are crazy, trying to make sure students are ready for where they need to be. And, your resume's done. Well, no, I don't have my resume done. Well, how are you going to get a job if you don't have your resume done? And it can get very grinding after a while. So coming here and doing this and spending this time with our listeners and with Kacey is really cathartic to me. It brings me where I need to be.
That's lovely. I enjoy spending this time with you as well, and with all of our viewers and listeners. So the card that I pulled is Serenity, and that is what the card looks like. And for me, Serenity is all about taking that moment for yourself to just be in the moment and really just embrace the calm. My life is pretty chaotic too, with a 6-year-old son and with my day job and all the extra side jobs that I do. So finding moments of serenity for me is really important. So I hope this resonated with you and that you got something out of these cards. And I hope that it answered any questions that you might have for this week. So going into this next week, really embrace the catharsis and the serenity for yourself.
And those are both fitting for today's episode. Perfect reminder, keep your practice authentic and centered and focused on you and where you can go, where you need to be, and how you need to get there.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sitting at our altar today as we navigated the world of pop culture.
Remember, you can check out our weekly altars and connect with us on Instagram and TikTok at Coven's Corner Podcast.
We will see you all next Wednesday. Until then, remember, you don't need a Hollywood movie budget or special effects to create absolute, real, profound magic in your life.
I love that. Be well, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. As we close the circle for today, remember that the magic doesn't end with this episode. Keep looking for the magic in the mundane. If you enjoyed today's conversation, we'd love for you to connect with our Coven. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Coven's Corner Podcast and at www.thecovenscorner.com. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a Witchy Wednesday. We'll see you next time.